When a sudden illness or injury strikes, patients and their families often have no time to prepare. They're overwhelmed with fear of death, permanent disability, or disfigurement. Families, too, go through stages of crisis that begin with anxiety and may progress through denial, remorse, anger, grief, and finally reconciliation. The very first goal for both patients and families is simple: reduce anxiety. That's the foundation for coping. Nurses in the emergency department know that this is just as important as physical treatment. Safety also becomes a top priority. Families under stress may lash out verbally or physically, so close observation and security planning are always in place. Assessment in these situations isn't just physical, it's psychological. Nurses look at emotional expression, level of anxiety, and cognitive functioning. Common nursing diagnoses include anxiety, difficulty coping, or death anxiety. For families, the focus may be on grief, impaired coping, or interrupted family processes. How do we help? First, we act with confidence and competence. Explanations should be clear and at the patient's level of understanding. Human touch, a calm voice, and reassurance can ease fear. Even if a patient is unconscious, they're treated as if awake, spoken to by name, touched gently, and told what procedures are happening. When regaining consciousness, orientation to person, place, and time should be repeated as needed. Safety is also critical. Sentinel events in the ED, such as delays in care or medication errors, are most often linked to staffing levels, patient volume, or lack of specialty support. Preventing harm means optimizing nurse staffing, ensuring pharmacy involvement, speeding up diagnostics, and fostering teamwork. Importantly, all errors must be reported and reviewed, even if no harm occurred, so future injuries can be avoided. Families need as much support as the patient. They should be kept informed, encouraged to stay with the patient when possible, and given honest updates. In many hospitals, families are now allowed to be present during resuscitation. Research shows that this presence can help them cope and trust caregivers more fully. A trained family facilitator is often key to making this process successful. When a patient does not survive, the nurse's role becomes even more delicate. Best practices include taking the family to a private place, speaking to them together so they hear the same information and can grieve as a unit, reassuring them that everything possible was done, and explaining treatments clearly. Euphemisms like passed on should be avoided. Instead, use direct but compassionate language. Comfort measures like water, coffee, or a chaplain's presence can make a difference. Families should be encouraged to express grief freely and support one another. Sedatives are discouraged since they can interfere with the grieving process. Families may also choose to view the body. In these cases, injuries should be covered, and a nurse should accompany them, showing acceptance by touching the body and giving permission for the family to do the same. Most importantly, families need presence, compassion, and time, not unnecessary details or judgment. Families may move through emotions such as anxiety, denial, guilt, anger, and grief. Nurses encourage open questions and honest answers while avoiding reinforcement of prolonged denial. Guilt or remorse should be verbalized to help with coping. Anger, while often misdirected, should be allowed and acknowledged as a normal response. Grief must also be validated, and chaplains, social services, and other supportive staff play vital roles in this stage. We can't forget the staff. Nurses and other emergency workers are exposed to traumatic events daily, sometimes involving children, colleagues, or mass casualties. Compassion fatigue and burnout are real risks. Stress management strategies like critical incident stress management provide structured support. This includes diffusing immediately after an event, when staff talk about their feelings, are reassured, and receive follow-up contact information. Debriefing occurs within 1 to 10 days, offering a structured way to process the event and work toward closure. Finally, follow-up is available for anyone with ongoing symptoms, often through counseling or therapy. The goal is to protect staff well-being and help them return to their roles in a healthy way. The pandemic reshaped holistic care. Restrictions on visitors meant families often couldn't be present. Nurses turned to technology, video calls, smartphones, tablets, to maintain communication, though barriers existed for families without access or digital literacy. End-of-life moments were especially challenging, with nurses often acting as the only bridge between patients and loved ones. This led to moral distress for many emergency nurses who felt unable to provide the same level of care they would have under normal conditions. Symptoms included guilt, shame, or even signs of PTSD. Supporting staff through counseling, pastoral care, and peer support became crucial to sustain the workforce. Holistic care in the emergency department means tending to body, mind, and spirit for patients, families, and staff. Anxiety reduction, safety, communication, and compassion are the cornerstones. Even in the most chaotic moments, it is possible to provide dignity, connection, and a healing presence.